Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the administrative ways that mass deportations can take place. Now, I don't think any sensible person would dispute that mass deportations across the entire Western world, whether it be Australia, the United States, or Britain, are urgently needed. And this is not just for illegal aliens that have been coming in, but also for people that arrived from the third world in particular, when the standards they need to meet are effectively non-existent. You know, the bar they have to meet is about zero. And so they've been waved in where under more sensible circumstances and conditions and times, they wouldn't have had a snowball's chance of getting a migrant visa or later on becoming piece of paper citizens. So I just wanted to look at this and try and sort of explain the difference between sort of legal and physical deportation and administrative measures. Now, when the Biden auto pen globalist controlled administration was waving in over 10 million illegals over the 4 years of the rigged election and Biden's term coming from that rigged election, they used an administrative trick. They said, okay, look, we're not just letting you in, the illegals. You have to appear at a court date. So here you go. You can enter the United States. You can work. You do whatever the fuck you want. You can claim benefits. You can send children to school. You can bring your relatives over. You effectively can act more or less as a citizen. We'll even fix up corrupt measures and means so you can vote. We'll do all that sort of stuff. But you've got to appear for that court date. But the courts are busy. It's going to take a while. The court date could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more years away from a supposed court that may not even exist at that time. Or it may have one or two judges in it, immigration judge, and that even if you turn up for your court date, they'll just turn you away, say, no, sorry, too busy, come back in another 2 or 3 years. So it was an administrative trick. Do they say now you could argue, or they argued at least, no, we're not letting in illegal aliens. No way. They have to appear. They have to appear for a judge. This is illegal. We're strictly legal. We are upholding the law. But in fact, there was nothing of the sort. It was a deliberate bit of, outrageous deceit hidden behind an administrative rather than a legal measure. Now, legal, just separating it two. The legal measure is say, okay, you say you're a refugee or this or that. Well, there's the judge over there. You prove beyond all reasonable doubt that you are a refugee or a whatever. As an asylum seeker. You prove to that judge right now. Go there right now and prove it. You can't prove it, we'll throw you out in the next 5 minutes. That's a judicial judgment. That's a legal judgment that a judge listens to the evidence from an impartial high bar and decides whether or not you are. Now, the amount of illegals that get approved is very high, but even then, the illegals don't want to risk it. Well, what if they don't get the thing? Then they might be deported or listed for deportation. So they don't bother turning up for these legal hearings. The amount of turn something like 15% is a turn up. The rest don't. So when you've got 10 million people, so just using round numbers, 10 million people came into America in that time as illegals. That means 8.5 million of them are not going to turn up. The majority of them will just be told to come back in a few years, and they won't bother by that stage. And so effectively, they've become de facto citizens. And if this is purposefully and willfully done using these administrative measures, where they can claim it's legal, but actually it's an administrative measure, so the Biden administration say, yeah, you can come in and you can hear that your case will be heard later. So administrative measures are actually very powerful. And they can be done quietly in the background, and there's not the optics of ICE agents chasing down the street, and not the optics of paid-up agitators and troublemakers and stirrers trying to block ICE and running the risk of being killed or injured in the process of them assaulting and interfering with lawful, law enforcement operations. So what can be done administratively? And this is really the point of this essay. Well, a lot can be done administratively. Now, the first thing is rigorous enforcement of employment law, rigorous enforcement of looking at duplicate or reused social security numbers, all these sorts of things, and then going to these people, making sure they can't get a job, making sure they can't have access to any government benefits of any description, and saying, well, look, you can't get a job now, you can't get access to any benefits, you're fucked. But here's a free ticket back to your country of origin. So the measures like that would mean millions, tens of millions could be evicted from the United States. Now there are measures in place that are quite patchy in their success, because in the first year of the Trump administration with these measures similar to them, and those sorts of measures being rolled out, it's claimed that somewhere in the order of, depending on whose numbers you look at, somewhere between sort of 1.5 and 2 million people accepted the illegals in the US accepted the deal, free plane ticket home and $1,000 or something, accepted that and went back to Colombia or fucking Mexico, wherever it was. But that's not enough. The numbers need to be triple that before they're going to be so instead of about 2 million, 6 million need to be evicted every year. And so by tightening up administratively on these measures, is an illegal alien renting a property, in which case there's huge fines for the people that are doing it. Have you made sure they got citizenship papers and so on and so forth? so a lot could be done to make life pretty much impossible for illegals while they're in the United States. Checking the at schools, for example, there are millions. There's somewhere in the roughly anyway, somewhere in the order of 45 million children are in the US, of illegal aliens are in the United States at school. That alone could mean the parents could be identified and tracked down, and then your kids can't go to school. That's just not allowed, and so on and so forth. So, and by doing these measures and the kind of, for example, repatriating money back to your country of origin, to your family or whatever, taxing that. If you can't prove you've got legal papers, it's going to be taxed at 100%. Things like that, using the banking system to identify these people, as they're quite happy to use the banking system against those that oppose globalization. So let's use it the other way as well. So these are all things that could be done, and they can be done quietly. And sure, the globalist controlled media will scream and cry, but you don't have those. You don't have the optics of ICE agents running down the street chasing people, and they'll use optics of the little girl dressed in pink and all this sort of stuff. All those optics are going to be used against the people, against the Trump administration in this case, doing the mass deportations. But by really tightening up on the administrative side of things, if they can't repatriate money back, they can't get a job, they can't access social security welfare benefits, children can't go to school, all this sort of stuff, then the children of the illegal aliens can't go to school, then they'll go back. They'll just go back of their own accord, because there'll be no benefit in being in the US, and they'll go back to where their friends and family and their culture and all that sort of stuff are. And this would be a huge plus for the US. Now, there's some arguments to say, well, shouldn't some people stay? Just because they come in illegally 10, 20 years ago or last week, well, why should they all have to go? Well, I actually have some sympathy with that, and I do accept that. So, okay, well, let's have a look. Do you speak good English? You've been here 20 years and you can't speak a word of English now. Nothing to talk about here, buddy. You're going back. But after 20 years, you speak good English. And I don't say English with a Hispanic accent. I mean, there are children that have been born in the US for illegals, and they speak English with a heavy Hispanic accent. I mean, that's not integrating. So firstly, do you speak good English? And this is the illegals that arrive, not the children of the illegals. Do you speak good English? And I'd say like senior high school level English. Do you speak good English? And it could be graded on the amount of years they've been. Okay, well, you don't. Look, we'll give you 12 months. You can attend English classes for free. You've got 12 months to become proficient in English. And if you can do that, then we can discuss you staying in the United States. So that's let's have a pathway for you to stay. If you want to become a committed American citizen, live the American, you've come to start a new life. You're not just some outpost of Latino, South America. You're not some outpost here that's come into the US to set up some ghetto. That's not on. You can't do that. You've come to start a new life in America. Not to live the old life, but just with better employment prospects in the US. So there's have pathways for people that are serious about starting a new life. That can be looked at. I think there's room for that conversation here. Okay, so English is one thing. Are you living in a Hispanic ghetto? Okay, well, again, that's not working, buddy. You come to start a new life in America, to be an American, not to come to a fucking Hispanic ghetto. That's it. Big red flag there. Are you or did you bring out your relatives from South America or from the Hispanic countries south of the US border? Did you bring them? Do you want to bring them out? Did you send back to the village of your ancestors for husbands and brides for your children? Did you do any of those things? Because if you did, then you're not wanting to. You haven't come to start a new life. So you're not. It's not working out. You need to go back. If you want to live that lifestyle, the village, rural, peasant life, then go back there. But don't come here and just leech and loot the system. That's not what we're here for. But you reach first world country. No, fuck off. Go back to fucking the Latin countries. So these are pretty serious things. So if people start, they don't live in a ghetto. They speak good English. They've got a long-term legal employment record, or as close to it as you can get. Maybe through a labour hire firm, but if they've got stolen social security numbers, no, buddy, you're going back. That's not good. And these sorts of things, look at it in an objective sort of wide angle lens and say, well, gee, look, this person, they've worked all the time. They're doing quite well. They're not living in a ghetto. This is for whether they're illegal or got waived in under a low bar citizenship scheme. But at least to say, are you starting a new life? Do you speak good English? Do you have a good employment record? Are you paying more taxes than the social security you claim? These sorts of things. Look at that in its totality. And if you tick enough of those boxes, then there should be some sort of a 5-year pathway to citizenship, or at least that could be entertained. Now, so I got the question of this came on another video I did. And so, how many people? I doubt more than 5 or 10% of the people who've come into the US over the last 25 years would actually meet that high bar. Now, it's not a hugely high bar, but if you want citizens that are coming to start a new life, integrate and assimilate, then it's the minimum bar. But it may be seen as a high bar by some. But if they do meet that, then there's a case for it. So out of the 30-odd million illegals and 50 million, if you look at those that have just been waved in, maybe 5 million could stay. The other 45 million are going to go. They don't speak English. They live in ghettos. They want to live that peasant, their Latino lifestyle. They need to go back. But there are some, I think, not many, but there are some that could stay and could be given pathways to citizenship. At least it's worth considering. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.